ancient wisdom in the storm, even for broken fall.
Hello, welcome everybody. Another one. My sound isn't turning down. There we go. Welcome to another Temple 420 Sabbath Sesh here. I've got CraigX and another time of coming together, talking about how God's done things for our life, speaking about the Bible and the world that we live in here.
Yeah, last time we talked a lot of current events.
We do that quite a bit.
I know. And I pay attention to what's going on in the world, and I think some people do. Some people only get their information from podcasts, and I guess that's still paying attention to the world, though. That is how a lot of information is disseminated these days.
That is end up the way I do it. I like seeing what the individual reporters and people who are independently investigating, not the people who are got backing to say something a certain way, like Fox News. Fox is okay sometimes, but a lot of times the bias is there.
Yeah, I haven't watched corporate news. I think I watched a little bit of Gutfeld last night on YouTube from the day's show, and I couldn't take more than 5 minutes of it. I was just like, it's just so corporate-y, like setting the agenda. I understand what you're saying when you say you like to hear independent people.
Yeah.
I wish we argued about more stuff just to make, sometimes I feel like arguments make more interesting podcasts or more interesting to watch, because you hear two sides of an argument versus, yeah, I think you're right about that, or that's really interesting.
Yeah, I think when I think of that, that's really what's helped, I think personally helped the Jews develop and do stuff, because like they say, where you've got two Jews discussing something, you've got three stories. So
Oh, that's interesting. I haven't heard that one, but
no,
it makes sense, because Jewish people argue and love to debate at the table and eat meals together. So
I think Kent Hovind may have been the first one to say that. It might have been someone else that I heard say it too, because he always talks about how there's he believes in the dome theory, the filament of, not the canvas above the earth that was there before the dinosaurs.
the firmament.
Yeah.
He felt there was a higher pressure system, and that when the rain came for 40 days and 40 nights, that there was a some kind of waters from above and waters from below, just like the Bible describes. Yeah, and maybe the firmament is just frozen ice, and that's why the stars look, when you really look at them, they look like water, light going through water, like in the pool right there.
Right. And he said there was some Jewish saying that it was 3 fingers thick around the earth, and he's always said that maybe there's some others that think it's 2 fingers thick, and they probably argue about that all the time too, whether it's 2 or 3 fingers.
Have you ever heard of Operation Fishbowl?
I don't think I've heard that one. No.
Okay, are you at your laptop where you can Google it?
I am, yeah.
Okay, so you can confirm what I'm saying here. What I think it was, and if this is true, if you can believe the internet, was that there was a atomic bomb sent up to the firmament, and they tried to see if they could crack or break through it. And 2 inches seems like it would be rather thin. It would have to be made out of some amazing stuff, because apparently a nuclear weapon was unable to break through the firmament.
Yeah, it's supposed to be some pretty good stuff. It's supposed to be like Ice 6 that has, I don't know exactly the full sets of it, but I know it's like magnetic and stronger bonds and some other.
Like below Kelvin or something.
Yeah. It's right there. I've actually got it set up so I can share my screens here too.
Okay. Yeah, and here we go right into non-biblical stuff again. But it's good stoner conversation, I suppose.
Series of high altitude nuclear tests in 1962 that were carried out as a larger Operation Dominic nuclear test program.
And this was supposedly after Admiral Byrd flew down past Antarctica or into Antarctica. Have you read that story before?
I don't think so. No.
Oh, apparently he was a famous explorer, and he was tasked with going to find out what was beyond the South Pole, or could he fly over the South Pole. And there's a story of his plane being taken over, him being landed, uh, and then meeting some very sophisticated, more intelligent beings, but they looked almost humanoid. But anyways, they told him this is off land. This land is off limits to you guys. You're violent, whatever. You keep doing your thing, and you go be you, and stay away from us here. And I look at, I think we've discussed this before, kind of those primitive societies in the Amazon that we fly over with planes, and they'll shoot arrows at the planes, or the people on the island off Sri Lanka that won't let anyone come visit them and survive. They kill them. They're kind of cannibals, or just they know to somehow to keep outsiders off their freaking island. Does that make? Have you heard of all these things I'm talking about, or does it sound like I'm just making it up?
No, I know about that island. I actually saw a video of them talking about it again last night, and how it's
Oh,
actually
okay.
preserved that people aren't supposed to go there, but people do, and then usually they disappear and never come back. That they had even a missionary go over there a while back.
Right. And God bless them, for trying to convert those people to Christianity. But clearly, they want nothing to do with the outside world. They're kind of like violent Amish.
Yeah.
So, the point I'm trying to make is that we still fly over them. We still know about them. And yet, they may or may not know about us. I don't know what kind of spiritual, mental technology they have where they could see what's going on in our world that they just don't want any part of it, or they're so trapped in their own hunter-gatherer, cannibal identity that any outsider is a threat to that identity, and so they protect it with their lives. I'm sure if we wanted to come there with machine guns and mow them away, we could turn them into Christians. Um, you know, I think that just is a fact of life, and that's like kind of the method that some religions have used, some cultures have used to take over the world, is just by force. And the point I'm trying to make, if I can remember it in this stony state that I'm in now that we're at Temple 420, is some more advanced cultures can live side by side with less advanced cultures, and they would barely know we exist because they only care about their own little world. And we think, oh, because we can care about a much wider world, that we know everything that's on this plane. And the fact is, maybe there are more lands, maybe there are more advanced beings somewhere that we just catch the glimpses of. And that's what these supposed entities, flying saucers, might be, their technology. Have you seen the recordings, supposed recordings, and these are put out by the government, so who knows if they're AI or not. It's hard to believe much of what the government says.
Right.
So
Something else. We try to shoot at them when we see them, which I think is the stupidest idea ever.
so those little tic tac looking silver one that kind of flies by at a
Yeah.
bazillion miles an hour. Now maybe that's their FedEx. Maybe that's how they shoot messages across the world quickly, and nobody's detecting it. Nobody's stopping that. Who knows what it is? But maybe that's from this higher technology place that we don't necessarily know about on our realm.
Right.
And I'm not. I still think Jesus is the God of that land too, since he is God. But
I
I
think,
still think that stuff
like they
might
say, there's
exist.
probably the Nephilim and things that exist in the heavens, and
Hmm.
have found a way to come down here and hang out and check things out, and that quite possibly some of them live in the earth or in the oceans too.
And that would be another realm that we have not conquered. There have been, I've seen studies of people who lived underwater for an extended period of time. Um, and they tell real interesting stories. I think it might have been on Joe Rogan that I saw someone interviewed that lived underwater, but it was hardly a city. It barely seemed livable. I think they were doing it for scientific reasons and observing the fish in some kind of glass dome that had air under it and may have connected to the top and was mounted on a base. But he still said he swam out into the ocean to go pee at night. So he didn't just pee in his little space right there. And he said one time he went out there and a giant grouper was just looking him in the eye. And it was quite scary, he said, for the moment until he realized what it was. But they have these giant eyes. And I guess he had a flashlight with him when he was taking a leak, or maybe he wasn't just taking a leak, he was doing a dump. So, whatever it was, the he was scared, and there are people that live under the ocean. That's where I was going. Dang, I feel so stony at the moment. Um,
Wow, you got smoked, right?
oh yeah, I haven't smoked in a while, and I did take a puff this morning, so probably shouldn't admit that on tape. It's horrible to do because I'm trying to be a teacher here, and I know it's illegal in Arizona. Well, I'm only smoking hemp, so I guess that's federally legal still until November. But
Right.
either way, uh, 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 um,
When they
whatever.
when they bash me on the sobriety and stuff of it too, I take it that, Paul, when you not in a state that you would fall into sin. So if you're smoking and getting too high, that you're doing sinful things and doing stuff like that, I can see where people have problems with that. So to me, that ends up being the bad part.
And I would agree with you that sobriety in that context means falling into sin, and that is what happens sometimes when you drink too much alcohol. Not always, obviously. Um,
People get mad too because I'll argue with it the same with caffeine. If you need your coffee or whatever in the morning, so you get up and then you're jerky to people, then you're falling into sin. You're being a jerk and not being
uh,
nice to your fellow man just because of that substance.
that is interesting. I knew a woman once, and she was not that nice. And when she smoked cannabis, she suddenly became slightly humorous and very friendly. Um, and it was interesting because she didn't smoke very often, but it was such a change of personality. It was noticeable.
I've seen that happen quite a bit. I think that's part of it too. I think that God gave us the good parts of it when it's been used properly there, because I've seen multiple times people smoke and then come together, play peacefully, and have discussions when if they weren't high or weren't smoking, that wouldn't be the case. There would be more fighting against each other and disliking the discussion. They wouldn't sit down and discuss it and have kind of that meeting like they do.
Yeah, I used to joke on stage at the Hemp Fest up in Seattle how you could never have a beer fest that large, that crowded, that chaotic without there being fights and discontent. But at the cannabis festival, you step on someone's toes, you bump into them, you spill a drink that they're drinking. You're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Let me get that for you. You're like, oh, it's cool, man. Da da da. What's your name? You make friends instead of enemies. So,
In the bar, you get punched in the face for that.
yeah. Well, some places, like you say, where people are less considerate, less forgiving, and more acting like jerks from a substance or from lack of a substance, it still has the same effect of creating more negativity rather than spreading good vibes.
It sure does.
Yeah.
Did you come across anything interesting this week?
What was I think? I've been focusing on Melchizedek instead of reading the Bible like I normally do. I've just been listening to pastors, and then I'll listen to like 3 or 4 different tapes or videos. Tapes, how that's dating myself right there. Videos about a certain subject. So Melchizedek is one of them, and he was the king of Salem. And I still got into that fourth cup theology, like we were talking about last week. I listened to a John Barnett video on the book of Revelation and whether the war we're in right now is going to lead to something greater with Iran, and whether Russia will be dragged with Iran into Israel to try and win some prize. I definitely see how the Bible says the whole world will turn against Israel in the end times. The Acharit Yamin. So it makes you wonder what's planned, and they say it with these pastors say it with such confidence. This will happen, then this will happen. And one of the things I liked about Trump speech the other day. Did you happen to see his speech?
I don't think so. I'm not sure which one.
Okay, well, he said, one, I like the way he does it. The reporters ask him these questions. Well, how are you going to handle this or do that? He goes, listen, I'd be an idiot if I told you. And any of these presidents who start announcing their plans from here are stupid, And he goes, that's why I'm a good president. I'm keeping my mouth shut because I have to make a deal with these people. So if I start saying one thing and then it doesn't, he didn't get into this, but that was his whole point. He can't say one thing and have it come out another way. And he doesn't want to alert whoever he's negotiating with or against, whether it's militarily negotiating or verbally negotiating or making a business trade deal. He wants to hold his cards close to his vest until he is ready to make a move. And so I kind of respected that. And then he talked about making a 10-year agreement. He goes, yeah, I got out of that 10-year agreement. He goes, it was a horrible agreement. And who makes a time agreement for 10 years with countries? Countries, you make an agreement for 100 years. Kind of like the way Hong Kong went to the British for 100 years, and then it reverted back to China.
And he wants to get Iran into that Abraham Accords, which to me kind of sounds like more getting on that track to do the revelation kind of stuff there.
Well, I agree with you because the Roman Empire reassembled isn't just the Western side of the empire, but the Eastern side of the empire. That was Persia, Turkey, Kurdistan, all the way down to Egypt, practically. The Romans, when the Eastern and Western Roman Empire split, the Eastern Empire was Christian for years and years, and then became Muslim. And it was still part of the Byzantine Empire. It was basically the structure of the Roman Empire. And we're still living in the modern Roman Empire. It hasn't gone away at all, whether it's through our architecture, the days of the week we celebrate, the calendar we use. There's so much of our world, the language and letters that we use are from the Latin alphabet. It just is interesting how accurate the Bible could have been for being so old and written so long ago. That's what I find interesting.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's a main thing that I see on it too. And I was actually having an argument with a friend who's atheist last week about that too, which I find super amazing that the Bible has. There was a big quote about it, about the kings and popes trying to, that the Bible is an anvil and they've tried to bust it with their hammers for years and years and they can't change it. And the amazing thing is, like, I can pick up the King James that I've got that was made in Europe, and I can pick up my Peshitta, which is Aramaic to English, and they've got the 66 books. They've got all the content there. It's not changed. It's not set up for James and then set up different for the East. And that would have happened if it was a book that me or you wrote and stuff like that, let alone it was written over 400 years by 40 different authors too, that were all in sync. All kinds of impossibility here with the Bible.
The Bible was written over 400 years?
That's what I believe the stats was, that it took 400 years to get that all compiled together, and it was over 40 different authors, if I remember my numbers right.
I'm sure there's 40 different authors, but I think it's compiled over much more years than that, because you have Moses's writings, you have even the book of Job, which is older than the Torah, and then you have King David and King Solomon. Those are 1500 years, like 1500 BC, and a couple hundred years after Moses and Joshua. And then you have the book of Kings, the prophets. And so the Old Testament, and then the Old Testament is written, not the Old Testament, the beginning of the Old Testament was written really long ago. And then the prophets were from 800 BC, 750 BC. Daniel was like 587, 586 BC for 70 years or more. He was, keeping track of his books. And then I think even if you look at the Ethiopian Bible or the Catholic Bible, that includes Maccabees, that covers 167 BC. And are you looking up these different things? Is that what you're clicking away at?
Over 1,500 years, it says.
Yeah, so I would say at least 1,500 years. And then in the where we have our modern Bible with the Old Testament and the New Testament, that was done around 300 AD, where they said, let's make the official canon of what the Bible insists of. Because prior to that, I think it was individual books and scrolls, because that was probably a cheaper way to write a book.
Right, yeah.
Without binding it, because everything was bound by hand, and so it was probably expensive, and was handwritten up until the 1400s.
Switched my thing here because I was going to pull up the part with Melchizedek in there. We talked about him the other day too in our Parsha. Interesting.
Okay, so go ahead. He's just an interesting character in that some people, and really what I was thinking of when I was studying Melchizedek was all the times that Jesus appears in the Old Testament, because I was talking to my friend Dan, and he was like, oh, Jesus doesn't appear in the Old Testament. And I'm like, yeah, he does. He's both the prince or the king and the priest and Melchizedek. And what city is he in control of? Jerusalem. Before it's Jerusalem, it was only Salem. And Abraham paid a tithing to him,
Right.
even though he was a rich, powerful man.
And that's Genesis 14:17. for Abraham's blessed by Melchizedek. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him, and he returned from smiting Chalamer and the kings which were with him into the valley of Sunnavah. And being the valley of a king, and Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine, and he was the priest of the most El Elyon. And he blessed him and said,
Do you know what El Elyon is?
I don't for sure. I've heard it.
The Most High.
Nice. That makes
And
sense.
El is God from Elohim. So he's the God of the Most High. He's the priest for the God of the Most High.
And he blessed him and blessed Abraham of the Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed the Most High El, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And he gave him a tithe of all. And the king of Sodom said to Abram, give me the persons and take good for yourself. Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up my hand to Yahweh, the Most High El, the possessor of heaven and earth, and that I will not take from you that is yours, from a thread to a shoe latchet, and that you may not say that I have made Abram rich. Nothing for me, only the young men have eaten, and the portion of men who went with me, and nor Eshol Marimer, let them take their portion.
And this was the Parsha this week?
They went through. It was funny because they kind of go through with the stuff. They were actually going through like the Psalms and talking to some of the Psalm statements that people go through and stuff for protection. And I don't remember what rolled up the Melchizedek situation, but it's funny because they are strictly Jews, and then they were talking about how the Messiah is like Melchizedek, that he's not going to be of the line of
Judah.
Yeah. Well, he's not going to be the line of the Levites, just like Christ.
He is going to be of the line of Judah. He's not going to be of a Levite, right? But he'll still be a priest. He'll be a high priest.
Yeah, like Melchizedek. So Melchizedek is kind of an image of Christ before Christ comes.
Yeah. Or is it him coming to be there for... He's also brings up the bread and wine. This is my body. This is my blood. I think that's the first time that bread and wine is brought up in the Bible itself.
Yeah, I think that's actually what spurred up and kind of got the conversation too. We were talking about the bread and the wine and the first fruits and the Passover and all of that.
Right, which then brings us back to the fourth cup, like we were talking about, how there's a specific order, a Seder, that you have to follow when celebrating the Passover. And that is also a prophetic coming of the Messiah.
There's some interesting things too. Other times they say some of them say too, when Jacob wrestled the angel of the Lord, that might have been Jesus Christ, as well as when he also came to Abraham and Lot with the angels. But I'm split on that one. I don't exactly know I think.
Here's the thing. Jacob was definitely wrestling a real person who came down the ladder, wrestled with him. He didn't want to let him go. He said, "You got to let me go." And he changed his name to Israel, one who struggles with God, touched his hip, gave him a limp. And it feels so like there's something important about all those details that I don't know what is so important about it, but you feel something like, why the hip, why the limp, why the name change, what is it that is really occurring? Is it becoming a new person? A new name makes you a new person, because Jacob is the trickster, and then Israel is one who struggles with God.
the struggles with God seems to be a continuous thing with them there. That we've got a bunch of Jews that
Well,
don't even
for the Israelites, yeah,
do it. Yeah, it's totally a struggle there with them continuously still.
because they kind of, they are like, you and your Jesus, I heard it, most of them, like, they study the scriptures, and for some reason it's very hard for them to make the connection. And I can tell you, like, I have an old uncle, and his big complaint to me about becoming Christian was like, do you know what those people have done to us? Like, they've been they've treated us so badly for so many years, and kept us, from achieving what we need to in life. Like, it sounds like black people complaining,
Yeah,
like, oh, it was slavery 200 years ago, my ancestors, but I'm still suffering from the white man's oppression. And meanwhile, there's millions of black millionaire. I don't know about millions, but thousands of black millionaires. There's probably a black billionaire or two. Uh,
oh yeah, we got
and what's
Oprah.
that?
So we got Oprah. Oprah is one of them.
Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson. I mean, I guess they made their initial money in entertainment, but they clearly were competent business people to be able to invest and uh, reap the rewards of their return on investment, so that they became super wealthy.
And you Jews are blessed. You guys got lots of skill for networking and business stuff and all that, because I've seen that across the Jews, racially and spiritually. They seem to really get blessed by God,
Well,
manage things much better, and everybody gets jealous of that too.
I was reading an interesting thing about Jews having a real bottleneck, that 40 million people in America today descend from 350 Jews who lived in Germany at one point. And they're doing that genetically, and that some of these people only have like a great grandparent. So they're at like 5% Jewishness still, of that specific ethnicity, but they are connected, in that there's 40 million Americans that descended from one bottleneck of group of people who were from Germany. And I'm sure they were very industrious people, um, and that most of the Jews in America today are no more than like fifth or sixth cousins, because they all descend from such a small bottleneck of people.
Hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, I
Yes,
don't. Go ahead.
wild too when I go through the stuff with the Parsha and the Jewish temple there. I respect their stuff, but there's so many
Right.
times too they're speaking
That
about the Messiah, and I'm like, that's clearly Jesus Christ. That's
and,
too. All
and
those
they
other
and they
guys
don't, they can't
are-
even consider that possibility.
yeah, it's wild.
And the somersaults they'll go over to not admit that it's uh Jesus or Yeshua or whatever you want to call him, the Messiah. Yeah,
Right,
and they, it is so funny because and I guess, what did he say? Daniel said they'll be blinded until the end times.
right. Yeah, close to that there.
So what it is, and I just don't feel like any responsibility, like, oh, I have to be the one to to tell these Jews you're wrong. Like my uncle, he just was like, he just didn't get it. He was more upset with me, not that I found from through reading the scriptures that Jesus, Yeshua, a Jewish kid from Israel, fit the requirements to be the Messiah, was God, came down to earth, created a sacrifice. He is God's, only begotten son, supposedly. But yet we're all brothers, because he teaches us to pray by saying, Our Father who is in heaven, who art in heaven, who is in heaven, whatever.
The
And
king were able to become children of God and be adopted into the family. For
right,
sure.
grafted in, whether you're Jewish or Gentile, anyone can follow the Messiah and follow what they called the way. And I think we also still have the power of healing. You know, I don't know exactly how it works. It says it works through prayer and fasting. And I think that it hasn't changed, you know, that if he says that his body is the temple and it can be rebuilt in 3 days, then our body is a temple also. And at the heart of the temple is where God lived, and God lives in our heart. So that's why, you
Oh, yeah.
know, we say what's on our heart, what's it when it says always in the Bible, with all your heart, all your might, and all your soul, you know, like, and none of that seems physical. That's a whole spiritual thing.
Right. Yeah, I was raised by a cessationalist, the one that says that it's ceased and that it's not going on anymore because they believe it was just kind of a time to reveal Jesus. But kind of in my exploring, I got with the Pentecostals and some others with that. And even like Perry Stone's Pentecostal and has witnessed healing and healing, telling people that they would heal through information he was given through the Holy Spirit. So I definitely have seen it and believe that it still goes on today. I think sometimes it doesn't happen for some people for a reason, then it comes in other times to still show what he can do. So I definitely believe it's still out there.
Right. Hey, I'm down to 3%, just to let you know.
Got
If I suddenly click off, I'm not ignoring you, and if I get down to 2 or 1%, I'll say goodbye first.
okay. You got always low phones in the morning.
Sometimes I listen to the Bible at night when I'm sleeping. I put it in my ear, and
That makes sense.
yeah, I try to stay as focused on the Bible as I can when I'm not trying to make money, because I still feel like, oh, you got to be in the world sometimes, but uh, I try to spend the rest of my time thinking about the Bible, so that helps me fight the urge to sin, I suppose, you know.
Right. I can definitely see that.
Yeah. Otherwise, you just get distracted by the world and
And
crap
we're
like
here to
that.
bring stuff and bring the light to the world. So I think that's definitely a thing to be in and bring through what we do.
Um, yeah.
One of the interesting things too, when you talk about the body of the Almighty being here too, and what gets me is a lot of times people are like, "Oh, it's one and the same" and stuff like that. But also with Moses, he saw God, but he wasn't able to see his face. He was only able to see his back end. So there's some
Right.
kind of physical nature with God as well as in Revelation, he's in the throne next to Jesus Christ.
Well, I think, is there something about Melchizedek where they take their shoes off on holy ground?
I didn't see that on there, but it kind of sounds familiar.
Because that's the same thing that God told Moses when he saw the burning bush. Oh, and I did hear a comparison that the Jews were like a living burning bush, in that they refused to be assimilated or destroyed, even though they've been attacked, burned, supposedly, you know, all these years of persecution. They still managed to not assimilate, to intermarry, and continue their culture and religion.
Right? That makes sense.
It is. I feel like I've walked away from that, in that, oh, what a beautiful bird up there. Uh, my kids now go to Christian church. We still go to Jewish temple. If we're like somewhere where we don't like, I'd rather go to a Jewish temple than a Christian church that I don't know.
Somebody,
If
yeah.
if that makes sense.
It
But
does.
if because I just feel like, oh, I want to be with my people. But if I go to if it's in our town, we don't have a Jewish temple, so I go to a Christian church, and we're real happy going to our church.
I find a lot of the Jewish stuff really helpful, especially like the different holidays and stuff. When you get into the rituals and the meanings and the stuff behind them, a lot of it's for helping your brothers and sisters and your community and being grateful what God gives and sharing that along with people and being resolute in your faith and all of this. I'm like, that's really good things, better than what the Christian communities are celebrating. So it's weird to me that we reject those.
Well, it is interesting to me too. Oh, I just got down to 1%. All right. In case I get cut off now, it is interesting to me too, because the Jewish people, in a more practical sense, do a lot of charity, do a lot of that stuff where they volunteer their time or give money to a cause. And then what's interesting, though, in a negative way, is that they then feel justified. Oh, we're doing a mitzvah, we're doing a blessing, we're doing all this good stuff that Christians say they do, but they don't do. And here we are, non-believers in your Christian God, but here we are doing good works. But the thing is, all the good works in the world still don't save you, uh,
And
and until you believe in the Messiah. And what's interesting is that they're very non-religious. They're more into going to temple on the high holidays, eating at the deli, having the Seder with the family, doing all the Jewish things to do without having the God necessarily, if that makes sense.
that does. I didn't realize that was really a thing, but Christians really do it too. There's so many Christians that attend church, and really that's just a thing that they do as a tradition. They attend church and hang
Right.
out. And during the week, they don't really celebrate or do any of that stuff. Some of them are good, and then they consider themselves Christian, or they just attend church and then do whatever they want during the middle of the week.
Right. Well, I know some Jewish people that only go for Passover and for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So 3 days a year they go to temple, and that's it.
That's wild.
And it isn't even like temple is the thing. They don't study the scriptures. They do great things in the community. They provide jobs, they give charity, they'll volunteer sometimes, but they just don't have the same, they just don't know that God's real. They really think if God is real, he's going to recognize I'm a good person. I've done these good things. And like I said, it's very deed based. What did you do? What did you give?
It's a travesty. It's definitely calls back to when Christ says that people will be like, "Hey, I did stuff for you," and he's like, "Hey, I didn't ever know you."
Right.
Really weighs to the Christian side, but I'm sure that'll go on the Jewish side too. Like, we did all these good things, like, but you didn't know me.
Right.
So
It's interesting, yeah. And what is it to know him? To talk to him in your head, in your heart, to follow him and keep the commandments, to repent and do teshuvah when you make a mistake.
and he says specifically, love those around you too. That there were people hungry that didn't get taken care of, so they didn't take care of him. There were people in jail that didn't get taken care of, and so they're not showing it to him. And people around us that we're not showing love to.
Right. Well, and how many of us are all guilty of that? How many of us take the time and go visit prisoners in jail?
All right. I made sure to get my ordination, so if anybody requested jail or hospital for that reason too, I wanted to be able to witness to them. But I need to
Right.
figure out a better structure to be able to do that to some of the people that are there and don't know how to reach out and get that kind of assistance too.
Well, I've been on 1% for much longer than I was on 3 or 2%. So maybe this works like the gas tank, where the beginning goes longer and then the last part, I mean, the beginning goes faster and then the last part they give you a little extra juice.
Right.
All right, well, I am going to lose you soon, so you're going to be here by yourself. Do you want to say a prayer and end it, or do you want to all right.
Yeah, sounds good. Dear Almighty God, thank you for this time that we get to come together and talk about your word and express what's going on in life and that how you impact it and show that you are the one that sent your son for our salvation, and that hopefully we can share that and help others realize and want to seek after you too. Amen.
Amen. That was a good one. And yeah, I hope our video is positive in someone's life. That would be
Hope
nice.
it's encouraging and helps the people.
Exactly.
Just them.
And if not, hey, we're just hanging out having fun.
Absolutely.
It's good to catch up with you, Chapin.
You too. I appreciate you coming by.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go plug this phone in.
Take care.
Have a good Saturday. Talk to you later.
You too.
Ciao.
Thanks everybody who came by and attended here. I will put up all our details in the bottom in case you're interested in viewing one of these Sabbath sessions with us and joining us. You can join our Facebook or our Discord or any other information and catch up with us. Thanks for having me. God bless.